Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sedha Exchange webinar series. I'm Guriq Sedha, and today I'm joined by Clarence Yap, an accomplished CIO and a transformation leader who has steered organizations across healthcare, financial services, and insurance through some of their most critical technology shifts. At Sedha, we believe that technology leadership should be guided by authenticity, objectivity, and empathy. Today's conversation is about exactly that: how CIOs can make technology choices that are resilient, future people centric, wealth of experience from leading 100 million plus core transformations to implementing AI and cloud strategies. So, welcome, Clarence. How's day been so far?
Good, and thank you for such a nice introduction, Guriq, and welcome to you too.
Excellent. Thank you, Clarence. Just like, to kick things off, you have, overseen some massive IT transformations from replacing core systems that saves, 100 million at HIH to modernizing ERP, CRM at APRA, to implementing AI at Smart Group. When you first take on a role, how do you decide what to prioritize for the next decade of IT resilience?
Look, I think one of the first things you have to do as a leader is you go in there and you do an assessment of the environment. That's one of the first things that you do. Something that I've learned in my time with Accenture, that you don't make any assumptions. You don't have predisposed ideas about what needs to change, because it's very easy to go into an organization and already have a bias from the back of your mind or your experience saying, I can go in there and do something really quickly. I think in a lot of environments, you need to actually do initially that assessment first, and then you make those decisions. Now, an example is normally when I start in an organization, I spend the first 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes even 8 weeks, talking to a lot of people. Now, one of the things, obviously, you talk to your own team, especially if you have an enterprise architecture team. You want to know and understand how are the applications connected internally in the organizations. You want to know all the ER diagrams or the enterprise architecture artifacts that they have. That's one. The second thing is you also talk a lot with the business, right? It's not just the C-suites. You also want to talk to their direct reports, and sometimes maybe even one level down. And you want to do that because you actually want to understand from their perspective what's working, what's not working, what are the pain points, right? Only when you do all of that and you refer back to your notes all the time, because some people say the same thing in different ways, and you need to be able to understand where everybody's perspective on it. You actually need to disassociate yourself from being the CIO and actually being the analyst, understanding where the organization is. And then you make those judgment calls, because you will start doing some trade-offs between short-term gain, long-term pains, because organizations may not have the budget to do everything at once. So you want to see if you can find some short-term scenarios where it's easy to do, but the payback is very big, because you want to, if you can get savings from initial initiatives that you can achieve, that payback can be used to fund the next phases of your transformations or your implementations that you want to do. So you need to be able to do all that in stride.
Absolutely. Thank you, Clarence. I think, you absolutely spot on, like raise the 360 view that you may need to gather very quickly in the organization. You get your head around things, talking to a lot of people, as you just mentioned, and not only, hearing from the people who could be managing certain environments, but also going to your stakeholders in the business and talking to, your teams, because you never know where the golden nuggets could be hidden in terms of those findings that you are looking for. And then I think you also mentioned prioritization, which is absolutely critical, to help drive so that you can fund your transformation programs effectively, but also show the traction in a short period of time by fixing the things that needs to be fixed as a priority. So, thank you. My next question is around, cloud and AI are often seen, as the future, but they also bring hype and complexity. Based on your experience, how do you separate what is truly valuable and what's just, shiny new tool that people want to bring in?
No, thank you, Guriq. I think one of the things that you first look at when people talk about cloud or AI, I remember in the early days of cloud, the business came to me and says, "Oh, this is a cheap technology. We should be taking advantage of it." I think one of the first things you do to people is say, "I think you need to take a step back. Let's understand the use cases of why you want to go cloud versus AI or any other emerging technologies that come into play." And understanding business use cases is important because otherwise it's really a shiny new toy and you can burn a lot of cash rather quickly in those technologies. And once you start talking to business about asking them are they hoping to achieve, especially AI. Right now, AI is one of the biggest hypes in the world. It does have very good potential and a lot of good cases that can come of it. But you need to be able to sit the business down to try and understand what their use cases are. I remember not long ago, a few years back, chatbots were considered AI, but that's just one part of AI now. And one of the organizations that I work for, I remember they wanted to implement chatbots, and I started asking them what are the use cases. They had no use case at that point in time. I actually just sit them down, work through the whole business process to then understand where chatbots can help. And to no surprise to anyone on here, including yourself, Guriq, chatbots base capability was going to assist a lot on the customer service side and helping free up time for people in your own organization not needing to answer mundane calls, etc. So you need to be able to build that use case and then see what that use case will have versus the cost of implementing it, because as you can get positive ROI out of it, it's going to be hard to be able to justify the cost of a new technology constantly for over a period of months and years if you don't actually can get any value out of it. Moving back to cloud, an example of that was when I first investigated cloud, probably about 10 years back. I think one of the things that I came into realization very quickly was it was not a cheap technology, even though it was touted as a cheap technology. Yes, it can be very cheap initially, but once you start adding in all the security features, all the capabilities that you need, it's almost in scenarios are like for like with internal capabilities that will cost you. But the biggest advantage of cloud, and that was the selling point of it, was the scalability and the flexibility of cloud, and use that to build use cases with the business, because we literally worked out with them, showing how much we don't need to spend initially upfront, and we can scale and expand it as we go, rather than trying to build all your infrastructure all at once at the start, and then start depreciating them from the start. And you need to do all those investigation analysis, as you said, whether it's 360 or in my case, in terms of what I used to do at Accenture, we do opportunity assessments, and then we decide which technology we should be implementing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Clarence. No, I think you covered the ground so well. I think in terms of understanding the use cases and the prioritization around the specifics of the if you are going on any new technology like the cloud adoption, like what scalability are you looking for, what kind of flexibility, how you can embed security into the design, and AI, of course. I think that's in front of us. If for every organization, it offers great opportunities in terms of having those use cases that can be leveraged through AI, and then making practical use of them so that you can stay ahead of the technology curve as you move forward. So thank you. And I think, and my next question is around, these kind of transformations that we see, they impact not just the systems, but also the, people, culture in the organization. So how along the journey, because that's, equally hard part. So they are, they feel part of the transformation rather than, getting disrupted by it.
From my perspective, having frank and fearless conversations is very important. I know sometimes people don't really want to tell or give your executives or peers some bad news, but you do have to be the bearer of bad news every now and then, and being very upfront at the start of the program or project rather than at the end is very critical. What I mean by that is, in most organizations, when the business says to me, I want to do X, Y, and Z, I want to transform, I want to replace the system, replace that. The first thing I say to them is, okay, let's go through the cost, associated with. Let's go through the disruption, because any kind of change you implement will have disruption in the business, and again, being honest with them. A lot of people think, especially on the business side, they have an initial view that when you first implement a new system, you're going to have all bells and whistle and the shiny new toy straight away with every capability that they want on day one. It's your job to explain to them that this is not going to happen, because as most people know, when you implement a new system, you normally implement the favorite term in the industry is MVP, right? The least amount of features, the least amount of everything on day one, and then you build that capability going forward. So, and you need to explain to them that this is going to be the case. So you actually have a dip in performance and then an acceleration in capabilities and performance over a period of 12, 18, sometimes even 24 months. And you need to chart that journey with the business, because they need to start understanding that with their own teams, what it means in the initial business versus what it means in the long term. And for me, the other key thing is involving the business in co-design, because then they can see what the systems will look like on day one, day 10, day 100. Having co-design also gets them involved and have their buy-in from the start, because they are in the journey and they're part of it, right? Now, from an IT team perspective, you also need to have very close discussions with the team, and you have to be very open with them, right? Because one of the biggest fear when in your IT team is when you do a transformation, your teams immediately have this thing in their head that says, okay, he or she is bringing a new piece of technology, so he or she will get rid of me or us and bring in a new team at the end of this. You need to be able to show them, for them to be engaged and involved, you need to be able to show them why that's not the case. And hopefully that's not what you want to do, as if to replace your team. Hopefully you can show them what you're going to do is train them, right? Give them opportunities, learning new things, learning new stuff, new toys, right? They need to be able to have that trust in you, that your objective is actually to bring the team on a journey and take them to the next 10 years or 5 years of generational change in capabilities and technology. That's when they will have the buy-in. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of resistance, because if you don't tell them anything about their future and how you're going to map their current to their future in terms of training, mentorship, whatever, they're going to start thinking that your whole objective is to actually change the IT team, right? So you bring them on the journey, and you will find that they will help you along the way.
So true, so true. You mentioned alignment, winning the confidence of the teams, acting as a true leader, in terms of the open communication that's needed, so that, you can absolutely, I think you're spot on the trust piece. Once your people who are going to help you transform, you have their trust, transformation becomes, relatively easier, because you're not fighting negative forces along the way. But, it's not easy journey, as we know, and you definitely need, strong leadership skills to help steer that and to go on that journey. That's fantastic.
The other point I I would put in there is that along the journey, when you're giving people update, don't be afraid to give bad news. I think a lot of people make the mistake saying, always saying that the program is working fine, everything. Be genuine. Show them, like every business, there will always be hiccups. Show them the hiccups and show them how you got around the hiccups. People will have a lot more buy-in that way.
So true, so true. Thank you. Just to wrap things up, if you have to give one piece of advice for the CIOs who are, building IT environments that will still be relevant in 5 years from now, let's say 2030, what would be that one piece of advice?
I would say a few things. One, be pragmatic and be flexible. Don't get especially if you go into an organization and you develop an IT strategy and a roadmap to match the business roadmaps and strategies. Don't be too hung up on it. Be very pragmatic and be very flexible. Things will change. And when things change, you need to be able to change with that change. I'll give you an example. When I joined APRA, I remember joining them 6 months before COVID. And when COVID hit, you had to change your strategy rather quickly, and you had to change your roadmap rather quickly instead of trying to fight that. You can't. You just have to understand that was a massive change in the business environment, and you have to be very flexible with your roadmap and your thinking at that point in time. That's number one that you need to do. Number two is always work with your teams and your business. You need your business stakeholder support. And on top of that, you need your team support. When you're working with a team, sometimes it's good to put your ego in the closet. You need to be able to be humble enough to say to yourself, I don't have all the answers. I need them to tell me some of the answers and tell me some of the problems that we're about to face. Not to say that you would do everything they tell you to do, but you need to know where are your blind sides, because that will help you determine and develop what needs to be done in terms of systems for the next 5 to 10 years.
True, so true, spot on, Clarence. And I think in my experience of running this business now for nearly 10 years, and prior to that as a Gartner analyst, the best CIOs that I've come across are the ones who are humble, who engage really well, kind of seeking to do, okay, what next? And bring in the people together, win the confidence, but at the same time, have kind of that attitude to be very open and humble. I think that's a characteristic that is again a great leadership skill that goes very deep for the people who absolutely help make significant changes, positive changes in the organizations. So thank you, Clarence. That's been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your journey, insights. I think what it really stands out for me is that you need to have the balance to steer bold transformation. What either it is at the core systems or any new technologies such as cloud AI that you are steering, and with the, having a deeper commitment for the people and the culture along the way as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time, and we'll surely catch up soon.
Thank you very much, Guriq. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in your webinar.
Thank you, Clarence. Cheers. Bye for now.